lifelong interest in healing, Dr. Linda Salvin pursued an advanced degree in epidemiology. Then, after dramatic near-death experiences, Dr. Linda saw the other side and returned with gifts of insight, visions, and revealed wisdom. Now those gifts are ongoing, and she's here to share them with you. Get ready to be amazed. It's time for Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions podcast with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, offering up her always fascinating blend of psychic psychology, clairvoyant insights, and expert guests and alternative healing methods. So pull up a chair and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Charlotte, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour or so. Dr. Linda is out of town on business, kind of like a business vacation kind of thing going on. So she's asked me to host today. The guest I had scheduled, Karen Conti, couldn't make it today, last minute emergency. So I was kind of thinking about what I wanted to do today, and so I've been a paranormal investigator for 18 years, so I've seen a lot, experienced a lot. So I thought I would share some of that stuff with you. And for you guys, if there's anybody out there, if you're in the chat room, feel free to ask questions. I'll try to enlarge it large enough to read it. I'm a blind bat, I'm old. But yeah, I thought I would share some stuff from the case files. I'm the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team. We've been around 18 years investigating houses and businesses and things like that. So we've got a lot of experience out there. And so, like I said, I have seen quite a bit. So I thought I would share some of that with you. I'm out of Sacramento. Linda's out of Los Angeles. And I haven't had a real big chance to go out to the Southern California and do a lot of investigating. But most of our investigations are from Bakersfield on up the west coast of California. So I'm going to share with you some famous places you've probably heard about. And some not so famous places that you probably might want to hear about or maybe take a trip up to see. All right? But what I want to talk about to start is shadow people. I've had a lot of experience seeing shadow people, and I never thought I would. As a kid, I grew up, I'm talking young, I'm talking, maybe 3-4 years old. Every kid has an imaginary friend. Well, my imaginary friend was a ghost. I knew it. My family didn't know it, but I knew it. But that aside, I was seeing things as a kid in my house. This house is very active. It's always been active. It's still active. And what I saw was shadow people. I never really saw, something that was lit up like you would think a ghost is when you see a ghost go down a hall. I was always seeing shadow people, and my family dismissed it, saying, "Oh, it's your vivid imagination." But I clearly remember one time, because we used to watch creature features every Saturday, because my mom and dad would go on their date night, and my sister would be with me, and so it would be popcorn. Maybe this wasn't the best combination either. It would be popcorn, ho-hos, and ice water, right? So I would sit there and watch these movies. And I remember this night in particular was The Invisible Man. And I was watching it, Claude Rains. And that takes you back, right? Claude Rains. And I remember everything was over. I was real drowsy. And so my sister picked me up, took me into my bedroom. And as you walk into the bedroom, straight off is a window. And I saw someone walk past the window, but it was a shadow. That's the first time I remember seeing a shadow man. And I remember pointing it out to my sister, and she said, "Oh no, you're just having a nightmare. You saw the movie, and that's why you're seeing this." But I know what I saw, right? But I went to bed. I didn't give it a second thought. Then later on, probably a few months later, I used to sleep in bunk beds. My other sister would sleep above me. And, of course, being the youngest, in bed by 8:30, all that good stuff. So I always had a night light anyway in there, because I did not like the dark. For some reason, I was always afraid of the dark. So I'm laying there in my bed waiting to fall asleep, and I see this shadow hand reach down from the top bunk. Now, whether it was trying to grab me or what, but it was actually moving. I could see the fingers moving, right? But I kept it to myself because I figured my sister would run in and say, "Oh, no, it's just your imagination." A couple months later, I'm laying in the same bed, and my sister, and this is like the 70s, so there's psychedelic stuff on the walls, and all that's going on. And she had this psychedelic butterfly that was like a flat wall decoration, and it was directly across from me on my bed. And I remember looking up at this thing, and I saw two dark faces come out of it, and they were flying towards me. I screamed that time. And again, she came in. Oh, it's your imagination. It's this. It's that. It's this. So I was seeing, like I said, I was seeing shadow people, and then I didn't see them for a long time. As I grew up, I started to see light beings in my house, like what I took to be angels. I saw a couple angels. Come to find out, it probably was because the people that had lived in my house before, one of the ladies' sisters was a nun, and the nuns used to come over and play badminton in my backyard. So this being I saw went from like probably a 10-foot space from my center divider in my kitchen into my fireplace, but it was white. It looked like a typical ghost. It was white. It was off the ground. It was like a big white sheet went one way, and then a few weeks later it went back the other way. So I'm figuring it was probably one of the angels. But like I said, there's always been activity in this house, and talking of, and we'll start out with the Shadowman part. And as I got older, everything got suppressed because I got involved with other things, teenager things, high school, But after I got into the paranormal again and started to see things and hear things, that I took more notice of it. So we were going, as a team, we were working with the Georgetown newspaper, and we were going up to a cemetery up in Georgetown, driving myself and me and Karen Clark were driving. And normally at this point, because I used to film for a TV show called California Haunts over on Public Access, so I always had a camera with me. And sometimes I would point it out the front window of the car, but this time I did not have a camera. We're driving up this real narrow 2-lane road to get to this cemetery, and a shadow man walks right in front of the car. And the weird thing about this is that I don't know what shadow people are. I mean, I can only speculate. It's like it's an inexact science. Nobody can tell you what a shadow person is. Okay, if they act like they're experts in this field or not. Okay, I'm just saying. And when he stepped in front of my car into the headlights, because it was night outside, the headlights didn't go through him. It was like some kind of black hole. So when the headlights hit him, that was it. They just kind of went. And that's what I thought was really strange, was that the headlights couldn't penetrate it. Anyway, he continued and walked up, and when I say, because we're talking like the foothills, so we're talking like on each side of this road had an embankment like this, right? He walked in front of my car and straight up the embankment. The only time I've ever seen that happen is if an animal does it, like a fox or something that has that kind of nimbleness to go up. So we were excited. It's like, oh God, we didn't have the camera running. Let's pull over. Let's go see, if what we saw was what we saw. And so we went over to check out the space. No footprints, no nothing. So it wasn't a real person that we saw. No footprints, nothing like that. But we did. We witnessed this guy together. Second time I had an encounter with a shadow man as an adult, we were at the Fallon Hotel in Columbia. Columbia is up near Yosemite Valley. In fact, it's one of those places that's on the edge of the Yosemite Park. And we were in this hotel doing an investigation, and we started to have weird things happening on the way up to begin with. I was driving up with one of my other investigators in the van, and we got in a couple spots that were really cold, on the way up. And I thought that maybe there'd been a car accident there with a fatal, because I've had experiences on the freeways here. And I'll teach you guys a good trick too, where I had the windows down in the car, it's 105 degrees, and I'm hitting cold spots on the freeways. Right where there were fatal accidents. So I'm thinking, well, maybe there was some kind of fatal accident, along this road. So I get on the phone to Nancy Matz, who was on this show a couple of weeks ago, and I'm talking to her, and she says, well, there's someone in the car with you. It's a man, he's in the car with you. And so she dealt with him. We continued our drive up to the hotel, and it was really strange because the manager of the hotel was in her office, which is like, from the front door of this hotel, it's like off to the left, only about 20 feet away from the front door. We get there, the door's locked, we're pounding on the door, we're hollering. She can't hear us. For some reason, she could not hear us. The guy down the street at the hotel, because the same people that own the Fallon Hotel, used to own the Fallon Hotel, own this other hotel down the street. And so, like 10 doors down, this guy heard us hollering. He came and let us in. So I can't explain why she couldn't hear us, because she was that close to the door. So we do this investigation, and we had weird things happen, like the power would go on and off during the investigation for no reason. There was this one particular room that whatever this ghost was didn't want us going in this room, and we went in a couple of times without thinking. So I think it irritated him. In fact, I think my investigator who I was with, and because I was out unloading the car, the van, she got she got to have a tour of the theater because there's a theater connected to this hotel. And as she was going down the stairs, something pushed her down the stairs. Probably whoever this was that was in the car with us, more than likely. So we do our investigation. He's obviously not happy because he keeps. And I'm not saying it was him switching the power off, but something's not happy with us being there. And so we get down towards the end. It's like 2 a.m. And the door. Let me see. The front door of this hotel had like stained glass on it. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. One of the most beautiful doors I've ever seen in a hotel. And so the only light coming in was from this door. And I was sitting like I am now, and the main hallway of this hotel was behind me and off to the right. I start doing a dowsing session with dowsing rods and EVP session, and I have about 10 people sitting in the room with me. And as I'm doing this session, one of my investigators looks up and says, "Charlotte, there's somebody coming up the hallway behind you." I turned around, didn't see anything, continued with my session. A couple minutes later, my eye catches movement, so I look over to the right, and the wall on that side wasn't more than 10 feet away from me. And I see this shadow man, 6 feet tall, wearing a hat, the whole typical thing, the whole typical thing you think about shadow people. He's standing there. He just stopped. He's watching us. Now, at this point, I'm not the only one that saw him, right? I had 10 other people in there with me. All of a sudden, everybody's turned towards the shadow man. And we looked at each other and looked at him, and he was just standing there watching us for whatever reason. I was getting kind of weird vibes off of him, nothing menacing, but just like he wasn't too thrilled that we were there. Anyway, so the people on my team start yelling at him to get him out of there. In the name of Jesus Christ, we don't need you. So he starts walking, and he goes, and he walks through the front door, literally through it. And so I waited about 5 minutes, and I said, okay, he's gone now. Let's continue the session. Okay, I start continuing the session, start doing the call-outs, hey, what is your name? All those questions that you see on TV. He came back through the door. And again, he's standing there watching us. Then I get this ominous feeling from him. Suddenly I'm afraid. Whatever vibes he was letting off. So at that point, I stopped the investigation, and we packed our stuff up and left at that point. Unbeknownst to me, he followed me home. Not as an attachment, but he followed me home. I get home, and at the time I was taking care of both my elderly parents. They weren't sick to the point where they couldn't be left, but my father was. And so I would sleep on the couch, fully clothed in case I had to get up in the middle of the night and take off to the hospital with my dad. So I'm sleeping on the couch, and I suddenly feel someone on top of me. And half asleep, I open my eyes, there's no one there, and I can still feel someone on top of me. So I remember feeling him as I put my arms up to push this person off of me, and I could feel the shoulders to shove off of me. And I did. I shoved this person off of me and didn't have any more problems. So I get a hold of, Nancy Matz, and I'm talking to her about, what happened at the house. Did I bring something home? And she said, yeah, he came home with me. He just didn't like me. And I guess according to Nancy, and I know this stuff sounds far-fetched, but of course we're watching, Psychic Solutions podcast, right? So according to Nancy, I reminded him of his former wife, and they didn't get along. So we were, nonetheless, to say we were able to get him out of my house, and I never had a problem again. But that's my contact with shadow people, and I've got it. Like I said, when he was standing in the hotel watching us, he couldn't have been more than 10 feet away from us, or me, for that matter. And so we got a good.
We have a question.
Sure.
Is this the same shadow man you saw as your best friend when you were a child?
No. This came in from the hotel. He definitely was from the hotel. And yeah, and so I guess he went back to the hotel, because Nancy helped get him out of there. But I mean, 10 feet away, you can't deny that. You really can't deny seeing something that close. Going back to the one I saw, as a child, that was kind of like my best friend. As I got older, it became a ghost. Literally became a ghost. And I had this little boy ghost that I would play with at my house. So it turned into a ghost.
What's the difference between a ghost and a shadow person?
That's the thing. There's a line about that. There's a fine line with it. A ghost you can see really clear. You can make out, well, for the most part, a true manifestation. You can make out the face, the face. You can make out if it's wearing clothes or whatever. But with a shadow person, there's no color. It's just a black shadow of a person. It's like one of those silhouette things you do, with your fingers when the power's off and you got a flashlight.
Do they live in the same realm?
Yes. A lot of the reports for those shadow figures, if you Google it and look those things up, they like to stand in corners and observe people. And that's what they do. Like I could be in here, happen to look back, and then there's somebody standing in the corner that's a shadow. There's theories that they died and they can't remember what they look like in life. There's other theories that they just don't have the energy to manifest to look like what they did. So nobody really knows a lot about them. But they are there. If I hadn't witnessed it, let me see.
We have to tell the
Yes.
listener here, yes, you can ask your question even
Yes.
if you are a disbeliever.
Yes.
Please ask away.
Ask away. But yeah, nobody, the honest truth as far as investigators go and psychics go, nobody really knows what these shadow people are. They're just there. Are they watchers? Because that's what people thought they were, because they would see them in like corners, observing. Like there's some kind of watcher. But they do exist. They do happen. And for the disbelievers, I can understand that. I can understand your point of view. I'm also a debunker when I'm out in the field. I'm not one of these people that walks in believing everything I see. I'm the first one to go through and take doorknobs apart. If the door is opening and closing by itself, I'll take the doorknob apart just to see if there's something wrong with the latch on the door. But
how long did it take you to, I guess, were you always a believer, and how long did it take you to be, on the fence about things?
it didn't take long, because as a kid I was obviously a believer because of what was going on here at the house. I would see apparitions left and right here. In fact, they're still here. There's somebody over my shoulder right now. But when I got into my teen years and then got into college and became a journalist, then I started to think more logically. And so I ended up on the fence. And then as I started ghost hunting again and getting back into it, and my abilities started to come out more, then I started to believe more. So I went from a believer essentially to a non-believer, essentially to somebody that's on the, a believer but on the fence, is what happened. And it was years. This took place since I was, I would say, 3 or 4 years old, and then the evolution into becoming a teenager, and then as an adult, to seeing these things. But again, with shadow people, nobody really knows what they are or who they are. It's just like with what the black-eyed children. Nobody knows what those are either. I've never seen those, and I hope I don't. But it's a unique experience to see the shadow. But what got me mostly about it with the shadow thing was that, shadows, when you think about shadows, you can pierce them with light. You can pierce them with a flashlight. But these things you can't pierce light through them. So it's like a black hole. So it's interesting. Oh, we have a question. Could you read that for me, Rebel?
Yes. From an outside perspective, the only thing that would distinguish your experiences and explanations from make-believe would be facts. Since I'm assuming you are unable to prove the things you say, how or why should someone believe in this?
That's what makes what we do hard. And we always tell people it's inexact science, because nobody really knows. So the best we can do is we can gather our notes, gather our facts, just like a scientist, go in it from that perspective, and just put it out there. That's all we can do, because they really, really can't prove it unless, like you say, unless it comes over and bites me, or there's some kind of scientific link to this. But there's no scientific links to this stuff either. That's why it's important as an investigator, or if you have a team come out to your house to investigate your house, it's important to check out their background, because a lot of them will give references, because you want a team that's going to come out and fill out paperwork and really write this stuff down to document it. And so if it gets documented enough, then maybe it will come out to be factual. But I mean, it's like anything else. It's like the scientists believe in Bigfoot until they have a body to look at. It's a fantasy. It's just something people talk about. So it's very hard to prove that stuff, and I agree with you 100%.
But they do have instruments and stuff that
Right.
record things. There
Right.
are things that can actually prove
Right.
ratings
Right.
to give facts.
Right. Yes. I mean, you got DVRs. You got those super duper infrared cameras. You got all that stuff going on. But unfortunately, you could have, there's people out there that are skeptics where you could have all that stuff, and they're still not going to believe it. So what you can do is present what you have gotten evidence-wise and put it out there, and then people can make up their own minds about it. I had somebody on my team. We were out at the Diamond Springs Hotel, and they were out doing. I was live on Blog Talk at the time. They were outside doing a EVP session out in the parking lot at the very haunted Diamond Springs Hotel, and she got slapped in the face by something. And I have a photo of it. You can clearly see the hand mark on her face, but she denied it. She says, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was a bug." So even if it happens to people, sometimes they won't, register that it might be paranormal. So it just depends on the person. But there's always going to be that. And I have no issues with the skeptics or the non-believers. I have no issues with them because my paranormal team, about 40% of my paranormal team are skeptics. And then you got the non-believers, or the believers. But the 40% of my team are the skeptics. You're not providing a good service as a paranormal team if you just go out as a bunch of believers and play into that. You have to provide the full service and scientifically try to knock this stuff down as much as you can. And then once you do that, then you start looking at the possibility that it's something paranormal.
Okay, we have another comment from the same person. Wouldn't James Randi's money be up for grabs if you could prove the paranormal through readings and instruments? I'm not trying to be difficult. I just want to understand your perspective.
I wish. I really wish that could be done, and it would. And I agree with you with that as well. I think a lot of us get into this because we have seen weird things, and that's why we do this, and we're trying to find the answers as well, just as much as anything. Just like James Randi, he's trying to find answers as well. I mean, if somebody came up to James Randi and actually had facts, the problem you got there is would he actually accept the evidence that people have? Because a lot of these guys, I'm not cutting James Randi down or anybody like that, but like I said, a lot of these people, once they get it in their head that there's nothing paranormal, you can't change their mind. It doesn't matter. I have a good friend, Kenny Biddle. He works for Skeptical Inquirer magazine and does stuff. He and I get along great. He's got his beliefs about the paranormal. I've got mine, and we just kind of come to a center on it. But I mean, there's always going to be people out there that are skeptical. No matter what, no matter what, you can stand on your head and have a ghost sitting on top of your feet while you're standing on your head. They're still going to tell you it doesn't exist. It's trick of the eye, trick of light, or whatever. It's always been that way with this industry. It's always going to be that way. It's an inexact science.
To be honest, it's not only this industry, if you think about it, because, I mean, people go to doctors and a doctor tells them, oh, take this in hopes that it's going to fix you. Well,
Right.
just because it fixed another person doesn't mean it's going to fix you. So
Exactly.
therefore, you have to look at it in a broader term. It's not just this industry.
Right.
I mean,
right,
you
right.
can go to a car dealership and say, oh, well, that car was perfect for this person, but that doesn't mean it's going to be perfect for you. You have
Exactly.
to have an open mind in
Yes.
actually seeing things.
Yes. Absolutely. And like I said, I've got debunkers on my staff who actually have seen things, and they still don't believe it. They refuse to believe it. So it just depends on the person, And again, we do keep meticulous records. I've got a room back there full of files, just tons and tons of files. Where when I get a case, I can go back and refer to see if there's anything that corresponds with the current case we're on. I'm watching everything. I go out on these investigations. I'm watching what's going on every half hour with the weather, because because damp weather can affect paranormal activity too, or so that's our theory. So like if you go into a place and it's thundering outside and there's electricity in the air, you're more apt to maybe see something or hear from something on an EVP. So we're forever watching that. Just like, when you think about places like the Woodland Opera House, the best time to go is after there's a performance because all the energy is charged from everybody that had been in there during that performance. So the chances of encountering anything are really good at that point. But like I said, skeptics are going to be skeptics. Like you say, what's good for one guy isn't good for the other guy. So, they're always going to be out there. I have no problem with that.
Our friend said, "My mind is as narrow as it can be, but I appreciate hearing your explanations and motives." Well, if you have a narrow mind, now is a good time to expand it. Let the
Yes.
elasticity of your mind work a little bit and see and try it with something little. Try it with something that is easier plausible than whatever. That's all I can tell you. If you have a narrow mind and you say you're having a narrow mind, change the way you think about your mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I just still want to point out too, Dr. Linda is out of town this week, so I got the keys to the show today, so I'm having a blast, and I'm glad to be here for you guys to talk about this stuff. And Rebel has a point about the narrow mind. And I've seen too, in my own experience, like I said, I was a believer as a kid. I went through that stage where I wasn't a believer. I'm still skeptical in a lot of ways. But the stuff I have seen, it hasn't been something where I have walked into a room and got inundated with paranormal activity at me. It's just taken years and years for me to start changing my mind, and as far as looking at things logically, to become a believer. Because there's just too much that has happened in and around me, in and around my team, in and around our clients, to deny what's out there. Now, could
It
this be
also
something?
seems that
Yes.
there was an evolution. Like you said, when you were a child, it was this, and then as a teenager, and then as college years, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like you yourself have gone through an evolution of
Yes.
expanding your mind.
Yes. 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 And as a journalist, you laugh about people being journalists and stuff because you got a lot of that fake news stuff going on now. But you're trained almost like a police officer to look at things logically because when you're doing these stories, they're supposed to be balanced. So you have to look at both sides of the story. So you are trained to look at this stuff logically. And I think my mind got trained in that mode. And so when I went back into paranormal, when I actually got into paranormal investigations, like you say, my mind had to slowly open up. And it did. As I saw stuff happening around me during these investigations and stuff, my mind expanded back out to where I can see this stuff and feel it. So I mean, like I said, there's skeptics. And that's good. We need skeptics in the field. We need people that are skeptics. That keeps the believers grounded, especially on the team. We always have the joke about, you get all excited because you come in contact with something you think's paranormal, and then somebody on the team comes in and craps on it, and we laugh about it. Well, there went that. So and so's coming in. We're doomed because they're gonna debunk it all. But it's hard. You can't prove this stuff. And a good friend of mine, Gloria Young, who has now passed away and ran Ghost Trackers. Best lecture I ever heard. When I first started doing this with my team, I would go to different lectures for other teams just to get a feel for what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. And I remember she was here in Sacramento speaking, and she's the one that said, I could write a book, you could write a book, so-and-so could write a book. But if you read the books, none of the theories that any of those investigators have are the same. Because it's an inexact science. There's no experts. So that's
Is there
good.
such a thing as an exact science anywhere?
I don't think so. As far as this goes, I don't think there is. I mean, there's people out there that come in. There's two types of investigators. You've got the ones that are, like I said, the believers. Then you've got the people on the team that are your debunkers. And then you've got the guys out there that go out to literally debunk this stuff with every kind of electronics to where you can think of. They're the ones that are crawling under houses and stuff and looking at really taking a hard look at what's going on in the house or business. So there really is not an exact science. This equipment we use, you guys, when we're out in the field, these EMF meters, these tri-field meters, all this equipment, it's all used commercially, okay? Like a lot of the thermometers we use are used for people that work on air conditioning. The EMF meters are used by guys that do electrical work, the electricians. So there's nothing really built except maybe the stuff you see on TV, like on Ghost Adventures. But there's really nothing built as far as equipment goes, basic equipment goes, that's not already out there being used by the working field, by people out in the working field. So it's interesting how paranormal investigators have taken that stuff and been able to adapt it to their investigations.
This is true. And to be honest with you, if you think about it, no science is actually infallible.
Right.
And no field is either. The trick here is to be the most convincing and I use the word trick. It shouldn't be the word trick should not be used, but in science in general, the most convincing professors and experimenters and all of those people, they're the ones that convinced people that it was this way. So people followed it. Did they actually have any proof that?
No, absolutely
Or did they convince people that it? I mean, we all went through a situation a couple years back there where they told us one thing, and now it's being proven that it's not. So it's just a matter of what you think about and who you choose to believe and what due diligence you do for yourself.
Right, absolutely. That's why, one thing that I'm a stickler for, because my team members call me anal, because I'm a stickler for details, when we're on a case. And again, we're trying to prove to people that this stuff exists. And the only way to do that, like a scientist isn't just going to come out and say, okay, the sun's hot today. The scientist, depending on who it is, of course, the scientist has already sent the satellites up or whatever they sent up, the research satellites up. All that data's coming in. They're taking all those notes and writing all that down so they can show you on paper, hey, this is this, to help back up their point, their hypotheses and their point. That's what we're doing. We're going out and we are filling out paperwork every time we have an encounter with something, or even if we don't have an encounter with something, we're forever filling out paperwork. I have a 110 question questionnaire that I ask clients when I go out, and it ranges anywhere from, have you lived in a haunted location before? Have you had issues before? All the way to, are you taking any drugs? Are you having any problems in the house amongst yourselves? Everything, we look at everything to factor it in, and we keep notes on all that. Just like if we're going to have high EMF, we're going to, really take, even if we, like I said, take a doorknob apart or whatever, but we're also going to write all that down to have records of it so that we have something to back us up. When I present evidence from an investigation, I don't just say, okay, we got this EVP, it's a ghost. I don't do that, okay? It has to be at least 3 to 4 things that cooperate with that. So I might be using dowsing rods. We may have a psychic with us, somebody taking photos. So maybe we'll get lucky enough, get an answer, a yes and no answer, say, on the dowsing rods, and we get the same yes and no answer, on the digital voice recording when we're doing it. And then maybe somebody gets a picture of an orb or something else during that part of the investigation. Or the psychic is talking to a particular type of person. So we're able to collaborate those 3 or 4 types of evidence, which makes it more plausible. But again, it's a give or take whether people are going to believe it or not. And you can't fault people, because again, without these people that look at things logically, everything would be a mess. There has to be an adult in the room with this stuff.
Aww. There's no fun when there's an adult in the room. No, that's not.
Well, that's why my team makes me laugh, because everybody will get excited thinking they have something, and then one of the debunkers will come in, and as they put it, they crap on it. So we just sit there. It's just how it works. But like I said, and the other thing we have to remember too as investigators is that when we go out to somebody's house, we have to be very, very careful, because you're not only dealing with what may be going on in the house. And again, like I said in my questionnaire, are you having any problems? Are you seeing, a counselor? Are you taking certain medications? Because it could be something physical with the person. It could be a mental issue with somebody. It could be like this old lady we saw in Roanoke Park, who it turns out she was taking particular medicine because she was in her 80s, and she was taking a particular medicine that would make her hallucinate. You have to look at all that stuff. And so it's a huge responsibility to go into somebody's house and investigate, because you're watching. You have to be ghost hunter, counselor, doctor, and all that. And see, with my team, it's taken me a long time to get everybody together. I have two LVN nurses on my team. I've got a former police officer who was a hostage negotiator. I've got 2 psychiatrists on my team. So we go unequipped. We go unequipped because you are dealing with people's well-being, when you're on these things. So, yeah, and again, notes, take lots of notes. And usually when I go to do my presentations to my clients, I will go out with a 50-page set of notes. Our experiences, their experiences, what went on during the investigation, what the client told me that they've been seeing. It's all in that paperwork that goes out to the client. Very thorough. Yeah, you have to be thorough to do this stuff. But again, like with the shadow people, like you say, you have to have like Rebel says, you have to have an open mind for all that stuff. And I think sometimes the people with the open minds tend to see more, obviously. But I have seen it where my debunkers on my team have changed. I've seen the evolution with like 2 or 3 of them, to where they actually believe that there's stuff out there now. But at first, when they came on, it was like hell on wheels, because they were out to debunk everything that we would try to coming up with. But if you get a paranormal team out to your house or your business, it's a disservice. If they come out as believers and they go looking for the alleged ghost right away, don't let them in. You want to get someone that has a team that has a balance, and you don't want to get the one that has just nothing but debunkers either, because if there might be something paranormal in there, it's not going to get taken care of, because they're not going to believe it anyway. So you want to get a team that has both. You want to get a team that has those debunkers. You want to get a team that has the psychic, and the believers on the team. So you can balance that out and come up to conclusions, better conclusions. But I mean, when we go out, I don't go out and say, hey, I'm a paranormal expert. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to claim that. There's teams that do. I won't do that. Because you just can't. There's no way to say you're an expert at anything with this. I'm learning new stuff every day. When I go on different investigations, there's times when new stuff happens that surprises me. Right now, I'm looking at that theory of, what if it's not ghosts and it's aliens? Because there's a lot of stories out there where aliens coming into people's houses behave the same as a ghost. They'll walk through walls. The room will get very cold, just like it does with a ghost. And then there's stories about these aliens having like holograms in front of their bodies, so you don't see the actual alien, you see a dead relative. So, so that spit out, the last maybe year and a half where those theories have been coming out. So it's ever changing, it's always changing. And again, like Rebel says, you have to have an open mind to change with it. Or there's no point even going out on these cases at all. Getting away from these shadow people, I've been on cases where we have come in contact with things that have shoved us down the stairs. I've been shoved a couple of times on the stairs. Well, let's talk about a couple famous places. How's that? Brookdale Lodge. People see that on TV all the time, on these different specials. Brookdale Lodge is an interesting place. It burned down, but they have rebuilt. This lodge has a brook literally running through the center of it. Beautiful place, absolutely beautiful. And it's neat because the tables, like you can have dinner along the brook. So there's tables on either side. Gorgeous. Well, there's that old legend with the little girl that was playing near the brook and fell in and drowned. And she has been seen all over the place in this lodge. And when we were there the last time, which was a few years ago before it burned down, we were able to, and I can't say it's her, again, in exact science, didn't have a psychic with me at the time, but we were able to trace something moving around there with the EMF meter. And this was up and down, up and down the little trail by where the brook is. And we were able to follow this EMF as it was moving. Now, was it the little girl? I don't know. Did we get any EVPs that night? I don't know. So if you look on if I bring my website back up and going, if you look on the website, you're not going to see anything from that little girl on there because we can't prove it just with that one EMF meter. It has to be like 2 or 3 different things that prove it. There is a photo circulating of my assistant cameraman and Will sitting at dinner, and there's a hand going through his head. Like someone tried to pat his head, and so the hand's going directly in. It freaked him out because you could literally see this hand going into his head. So what happens with that? It's an interesting place because that was part of Prohibition. So you had a whole bunch of ghosts in there. I mean, it's kind of like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. There's like 125 ghosts at the Brookdale Lodge, and the majority of them are ex-gangsters. So it's an interesting place to visit. The pool, there's like almost an underground pool. It's not going to say underground, but they have a mermaid pool, like in all those old buildings. Some of those old buildings from the 60s and 70s. The biggest fad was to have a mermaid tank. So people would sit there and have cocktails at the bar, and there'd be mermaids swimming in there. And so there was a couple drownings in the pool. So there's supposed to be activity there. It's just weird things happened when we were there. And we were doing EVP sessions and everything in this one room, and I had this one individual, another, of course, shadow, and I didn't see him, but the psychic saw him, and he was following me around the room. At one point, he was sitting right next to me, and, you run into stuff like that. But that's a place to visit if you get a chance, because I think they reopened, which would be the Brookdale Lodge. Fantastic, beautiful place. But yeah, and I remember this one particular ghost. I was doing an EVP session, and he didn't really want to talk to me, and the reason being was that he was concerned that because we were filming, right? He was concerned that his wife would see the video, because he was there with his mistress at this hotel. So, take it for what it's worth. That's the kind of thing I ran into there. Another place you guys might have heard of is the Moss Beach Distillery. Very famous place. You got the woman in blue who, there's two theories of how she passed. One is that she fell off the cliff, because it's way up on the cliffs up by San Francisco. It's way up on the cliffs. And the other theory is she got into a fight with her lover and ran into the road, and somebody ran her over. So you don't really know the true story. But it's interesting because when I went in to this place, you have to be really careful. If you guys have ever seen ghost hunters, when they went into the Moss Beach Distillery, they left because somebody had failed to turn off some equipment that was there. And what these guys have done, because the owners, they want to draw people in to have dinner there, because it's haunted, and they're trying to pull on that ghost crowd to come in and have dinner in this place. And so they have rigged stuff. Like in the bathroom, if you look in the mirror long enough, a woman's face will appear as you're staring in the mirror.
Just right there in the mirror?
Yeah, Hollywood effects, for people. They turn the effects on when people are there. The lights will flicker while people are having dinner and all this stuff. And then they'll attribute it to the Blue Lady. But in reality, it's Hollywood, special effects. So when ghost hunters went in there, I don't know who did their research or what was going on with that, but they claimed they were unaware of these special effects. So when it started to happen and they realized that they were special effects, they got mad and actually just didn't even investigate it. They walked back. Now when we went in, I made sure that all those special effects were off so that we could do an investigation. What did we get? We got this really cool EVP that sounds really mechanical. But it's a woman's voice, but it sounds really mechanical. The other thing that happened, we were doing a dowsing rod session, and the psychic was in there, told me the Blue Lady was in the room with me, and I have a full interview with the Blue Lady, where I'm actually asking her questions, and you can hear the answers on the EVP. And then the psychic comes in, and she did a channeling session, and I was talking to the Blue Lady through that, so that's all on recording. The other thing that happened, that went on, was that the psychic actually witnessed the Blue Lady getting thrown off the cliff. She was frustrated with me. We're walking across the main dining room, and she says, "Don't you see that out there? They're over on the cliff over there arguing. They're arguing. Oh my God, he threw her off. He threw her off." So I mean, stuff like that. Now, do I believe it? I don't know. I didn't pick anything up on camera on that one, but the psychic was very adamant, very excited, very agitated when she saw all that stuff. The Blue Lady also likes to take stuff, especially women's earrings. She will take their earrings and then hide them. And I did lose some equipment that night, and they found it later, like in some drawer, and I had to go back up and get it. So you don't know. Again, in exact science. But that's another famous place, and it's still open. And if you guys live in California, you can drive up there and visit that place.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, Woodland Opera House.
Definitely sounds cool.
Yeah, Woodland Opera House, about 25 miles out of Sacramento, up north. All kinds of activity in there. They even give tours in there. I don't know if they give ghost tours in there, but they do take, because it's a historical monument, so they do take tours through there. And like old places, it burned down at some point in the 1800s, and they rebuilt it. But the story goes that there was a volunteer fireman by the name of William, I forget the last name now, and he got trapped in there. He went in there to check to see if there was anybody in there, to make sure they left, because the flames were rushing towards, towards this place. He got trapped in there. William Porter. And so he died. Go to the window upper house, and people are forever seeing, especially up on the balcony, they'll see apparitions, and it's not just him. It's of like the stage manager guy in this top hat. And he looks like the typical kind of guy with the beard, and all that, with the white beard and all that. But he is the stage manager, and they see him all the time. And I remember being there, and there's a particular actress, a Polish actress called Madame Mucheska, and she frequents a lot of the old theaters around here, and up and down, actually in LA too. And we were able to pick her up, and the weird thing about, during the session doing with her, I was filming, out of the sky, and don't tell me how this happened, okay? Out of the sky, we heard something drop on the ground and go rolling. Looked down, found out it was a single pearl, like off a pearl necklace. And this is just, random. Kind of like poltergeist when this stuff starts falling out of the hole. That's what it was like. But we heard this thing fall and roll, and it was a single pearl. Now, did that come off of her necklace or whatever? Who knows? But in that particular case, while the psychic was channeling her, I actually got photo evidence. Psychic goes, take a picture here, take a picture in front of my face, and I actually got photos of what we call I call it ethereal goo, but there's white splotches in front of her face, definite white splotches.
We have another question.
Okay.
Hi, do you believe in the Watts house is haunted? Chris and Shannon Watts.
I do. I think there's activity going. Whoop, lost me. Where'd we go? Okay, back. See, I always drop off to where the Marios go. You know that game where you guys are playing and Mario falls off the cliff? That's where I end up going. I do believe in the Watts house. I really do. I've never been out there myself. I've read up a lot on it. I've talked to people that have, gone in there. And I do believe there's actual activity going on there. I would love to get in there and investigate. I would love it. There's a lot of places that I want to get to. That coming up here, hopefully I can start doing that and get back out and do these investigations. Back to the Woodland Hopper house. So this pearl. But that's when she said, okay, take a picture. She's standing right in front of me. And so I got these white splotches, which were kind of cool, right in front of her face with the psychic. And remember, guys, when we take photos as investigators, it's not just one photo. We take 3 in a row. For now, you see it now, you don't compare. And when we take them, we make sure that the spot. We don't, even for a little millimeter away from where we're taking them. We want to make sure that we're taking them from the same position and make sure the camera's on the same settings and all that stuff to get these photos. But there's white splotches on her face. Oh, question.
Yes, there is a lot of talk about the Watts house. Had an entity in there before the incident?
Yes, there could be. Absolutely. A lot of this too, like I've been out on investigation where it's something that's connected to the ground itself that the building is built on. I have one here. I have a gentleman in my dining room who died before the house was built because this used to be river bottom by the river. The river was further out here before they put the dam up. Years and years ago. He died. He was a fisherman. He fell, cracked his head open, and bled to death and died. Didn't realize that he was dead. So he is walking around my dining room. That's just craziness. And it's
my goodness. What a way to end the show. Oh, goodness.
Linda says that. I don't know if Linda would be able to get him out, but it's very difficult when something is attached to the land like that. It's very difficult to get them out. So I try to let him do his thing over in my dining room. But he does walk back and forth in my dining room. So I hope I was able to entertain you guys today. I really hope so. And I want to thank Dr. Linda for the ability to do this. I was real excited, and yeah. So if you guys want to check it out, I'm going to go ahead and give me something going on here. I do a radio show every night, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, California Haunts Radio over YouTube, youtube.com/@California Haunts Radio. And we interview a lot of people in this ghost industry. And if you guys want to hear it, it's great. Tonight's Heather Woodward and, all that stuff. So come on over and join me 6:30 p.m. Pacific every evening. But I enjoyed being on here, and I want to thank Rebel. Thank you, Rebel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. I want to just let everybody know, remember to tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on W4WN and other platforms to catch Dr. Linda, Psychic Solutions Podcast. And we have to roll.
Thanks, guys. So, so I have lots of stories to tell. Like I said, I've been doing this 18 years, so I'm a plethora for stories. But we do have some really cool guests coming up for my show as well. But, and like I said, if you get a chance to get up to these places like the Woodland Opera House, Moss Beach Distillery, Brookdale Lodge, they're great experiences because the employees have tons of stories to tell. They're very open about them. A lot of the Gold Country hotels, like the Murphy's Hotel, and the St. George Hotel and places like that, they have lists where people have even written stuff on paper towels that go on in their rooms and stuff. And so it's a great place to hear ghost stories and if you're investigating, to investigate, because they'll just greet you with open arms at these places, But I had fun. I had a lot of fun today.
It was great, and we enjoy it. And we'll see you guys next time. See y'all later.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Dr. Linda Salvin's Psychic Solutions Podcast. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.